Fellas, UFC 294 is this week, and considering that the card is stacked full of Dagestani fighters, I thought it would be fair to make the top 5 greatest Dagestani fighters. Now, we are only going to be including Dagestani, so please don't stop bringing up Russians, so don't ask me why, I don't know, Fedor Emelianenko in this video. Again, it's only Dagestani, not just the rest of Russia. But yeah, that's all I have to really clear up. Again, please let me know if you agree with this list, or if I missed anybody out. And the reason I'm doing this list is because I've noticed that in the past 5 years there's been a massive increase of Dagestani fighters. There's been such an increase of them since the Khabib era, and I thought, you know what, since there's been so much, let's rank the top 5 greatest so far. And I think in a couple of years this list will change a lot because of how fast the kind of MMA population of Dagestani fighters is rising. But anyway, let's go in there with the first fighter, which for me is going to be Umar Magomedov. I mean, he's a prospect, and he's got a lot of potential. Now, I don't want to use potential too much in this video because, again, I'm trying to rank the greatest, and when you're doing like the greatest, you know, you can't really just go off potential because it's never really accurate. But I genuinely believe he's going to be the champion well, I reckon he'll be champion soon. I'd actually put him in the top 5 greatest bantamweights right, well, maybe not greatest, but best bantamweights right now. Obviously, we've got people like O'Malley, Merab, Aljo, a couple other names up there, but I think Umar Magomedov definitely deserves to be in there as well because he's a very talented and dangerous fighter. He's super balanced, he's super dangerous, he's a technician on the feet, he's got scary power on the feet. And I'm not just saying that because he's got the threat of the takedown, so he manages to clip people. He's actually really talented on the feet, and obviously, when it comes to grappling, him and his sub, I mean, maybe he needs to work on his subs a little bit, but when it comes to grappling, Umar Magomedov, I mean, look at his last name. The guy knows how to grapple. He's undefeated as well, 14-0, I believe it is. Yeah, I believe it's 14-0, so he's undefeated, never lost a fight in his career. And fair play to him. I mean, 14-0, I mean, I don't know, what is it with the Magomedovs never losing a fight? Yeah, I think he'll be champ within 3 years. The problem with Umar, though, is he never fights. The guy keeps pulling out of fights. He needs to get a fight booked, and he needs to fight soon. And he needs to fight a ranked opponent. I was so excited for the Umar Magomedov versus Sandhagen fight, because obviously Sandhagen's learned how to grapple recently, and it would have just been good to see that fight. But I don't know, man. He needs to start getting into fights. It would have been good to see him. Actually, I think he's 16-0, isn't he? 16-0. But either way, yeah, it'd just be good to see Umar in the octagon again. But yeah, he's ranked top 15. I think it's top 11 to be exact. But yeah, it would just be good to see Umar Magomedov face some of these ranked guys, and because he's ranked, probably going to be champion soon. I'm going to put him number 5. Hasn't really achieved much yet. Does need to face contenders, but I'm going to include him in the list. Next up, another fighter that's kind of shadowed by potential, Zab Magomedov. Now, this guy, he had so much potential surrounding his name. He had so much potential because he was so talented. Yeah, his leg kicks, first of all, he was an insane striker. He was an absolute beast of a striker. I still think to this day he's got some of the best leg kicks we've ever seen in the octagon. His leg kicks was insane. The only problem with this guy was his stamina. I feel like whenever the fight went past round 2, his stamina always kind of, I don't know, he always just seemed burned out with his stamina. It was never in the best it could be. But Zabit, man, he retired too early. I think it was because he got ill or sick, and then he just decided to study medicine. I don't know if he ever got ill, but I know he's studying medicine now, so fair play to him. But 18-1, this guy had so much potential as well. He managed to get wins over people like Calvin Kattar and Jeremy Stephens as well, which you got to give him credit for because they're top-level opponents. I mean, Kattar's still doing his thing to this day. I really wish we saw Zabit face people like Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, even maybe a Giga Chikadze, just someone that can properly stand and bang with him, man. I would have loved to see this guy against some higher ranked opponents. But he was ranked top 10 at one point as well, man. He was close to the belt. He was a couple fights away from a title shot. I think he was ranked 6 in the peak of his career. But no, this guy was so close to a title, man. He literally, I would have said 1 win away from a title shot. If he'd have got a win over someone in the top 5, I genuinely think he could have got a title shot from that, because Zabit, he was an absolute beast of a fighter. Shame he retired too early because, man, I would have loved to see this guy in there. But I'm going to put him number 4. I think the fact that he's beaten some high-level opponents already in Kattar and Stephens, the fact that he's 18-1, insane record, he had so much potential. I think he's undefeated in the UFC as well. The fact he was only like 1 fight away from a title, 1 win away from a title shot, he could have been up there. And again, he retired too early, man. Imagine he was still fighting to this day. We have no idea how his career would have gone. But I'm going to put Zabit number 4. I wish his career panned out because he had such a promising career. He was doing so well. And then it wasn't even like he lost, which is what ended his career either. It was actually his choice of retiring. But I'm going to put Zabit number 4. Number 3, someone that's fighting this weekend, Magomed Ankalaev. Now, he's probably the most hated person on this list because, I don't know why though, because Magomed Ankalaev, he's got this reputation for kind of just being a boring fighter, but I genuinely don't find him that boring. He tends to strike in a lot of his fights as well. He's actually a pretty decent striker. Obviously, the knockout he got over Cutelaba was impressive as well. So I'm going to go Magomed Ankalaev for number 3. I mean, he's fought for the belt. You can't argue with that. He has fought for the belt, and he arguably won the fight as well. The fight he had against Jan Blachowicz at UFC 282, I actually thought Magomed Ankalaev won the fight, even though it was a draw. So I think he should have been champion at one point. But obviously, on paper, he wasn't champion. He's got some pretty decent wins as well. Nikita Krylov, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, Volkan Oezdemir. He's going to be facing Johnny Walker this weekend, and if he beats Johnny Walker, I think we have to give him a title shot. It's only fair because he's fought for the belt, arguably won. Now he's facing Johnny Walker, who's racked up a couple of wins. If he beats Johnny Walker, he's got to be next for a title shot. He has to be. It's only fair. And yeah, he could be champ within 2 fights, like I said. A win over Johnny Walker, he could be the champion. And he's got champion potential as well. He's got some of the best grappling in the division, in my opinion. And on top of that, he's a pretty solid striker. He's very, very balanced. So for me, Magomed Ankalaev's going to go number 3, man. Yeah, this guy, he's a tough fighter, man. He's Magomed Ankalaev. I can't wait to see him back in there this weekend. But I'm going to put in number 3. He's achieved a fair bit. But the thing is, though, 18-1, just like Zabit. But the problem with 18-1 is he's going to, let's say he just goes on this massive streak at light heavyweight, right? He goes on this massive streak, like 26-1. And then he looks back on his career. He's had this insane run at light heavyweight. And then the one loss on his career is to Paul Craig. Imagine you're an absolute freak of nature, and the one loss of your career is by Paul Craig. And not just this Paul Craig, but of all people, the guy that just, like, the reason this guy's got a 1 on his record is because Paul Craig decided to pull guard and Ankalaev fell into it. That's literally all that happened. Because Paul Craig's a scary jiu-jitsu guy. But for real, Ankalaev, I'm going to put him number 3. He's already achieved quite a bit, but yeah, he's still got a career ahead of him. I'm going to put him number 3. He needs to achieve a little bit more, maybe win the belt, but I'll give it to him. Number 2, someone else that's fighting this weekend, Islam Makhachev. Islam's actually close to being number 1 in my opinion. He's achieved a lot already. In the past year, in fact, he's achieved so much. A year ago, he wasn't even champion, and now he's about to get his second defense if he beats Volkanovski for the second time. But I'm going with Islam number 2, 24-1. Absolutely insane record. His one loss, I think it was Adrian's, I don't know his last name, but it was to Adrian something, and he got slept in that fight. But 24 wins and 1 loss, nearly a flawless record, and he's the champion. How many Dagestanis have actually managed to become champion in the UFC? Islam's one of them, and he's got a defense as well. And by the way, his title run has been really tough. It's not like, and when I say title run, I mean who he won the belt off and defended it against. He beat Oliveira for the belt, and this was when Oliveira was on an insane winning streak, right? This was the Oliveira that was smoking people in the lightweight division. He beats Oliveira, gets the belt, then he defends against Alexander Volkanovski, one of the pound-for-pound top 3. Arguably, in fact, I'd put him top 2 right now. Yeah, Alexander Volkanovski, greatest featherweight, never lost in the UFC, goes out there and beats Volkanovski in a close fight, and now he's going to be facing Volkanovski again this weekend. Because obviously Oliveira pulled out, and I think he's going to beat Volkanovski again. I know I said in the past, I'll do a prediction video sometime this week, but yeah, his resume's already been good. He's also got wins over Arman, Bobby Green, even if you want to say Dan Hooker, he's got a win over Dan Hooker as well, and I think he could be the potential future lightweight GOAT. If he goes out there, beats Volkanovski, and then picks up a win over someone like Gaethje, I think it's going to be hard to say that this guy isn't the lightweight GOAT. I mean, are we really going to say he's not because he's got 1 loss on his record? So for me, Islam's number 2. He's got such a promising career. I think he's only like 30 years old as well. So I'm going Islam Makhachev for number 2. And number 1, it has to be Khabib Nurmagomedov. I mean, 29-0. That is pretty. If it was 30-0, it would probably be more flawless, but 29-0, and by the way, when I say flawless record, I'm not saying flawless resume, because I know people in the comments are going to start dissing him for his resume and whatnot, but pure record, 29-0, you've got to give it to him. You've got to give it to him. That's impressive. And on top of that, He's been the champion and he's got 3 defenses. Obviously won the belt off Ali Quinter, defended it against Poirier, Gaethje and McGregor, which is a decent run. I mean, stylistically they're not really difficult fights for Khabib, but they were all top opponents at the time that he fought them. So the fact that he's been the champ and defended it 3 times, no other Dagestani has done that. For me, he's the lightweight GOAT as well. I've got to give it to him. I think he's the lightweight GOAT right now. Again, another controversial topic. And he's also got wins over, like I said, Poirier, Gaethje, McGregor and Rafael dos Anjos. A lot of people forget about the fight with dos Anjos, but Khabib in his prime, he was just so dominant. And I feel like Khabib kind of walked so the rest of the Dagestanis could run, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like this guy was the first breed of Dagestani that we saw in the UFC, or the first one that really took it to the next level. So for me, Khabib still right now is the #1 Dagestani, but depending on how Islam does in the next few fights, I think he could overtake Khabib. But that is my list for the greatest Dagestani fighters. We're gonna this list could change depending on what happens this weekend, but yeah, those are my top 5 Dagestani fighters. Let me know your list, and yeah, thank you for watching.